What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host, and we are now getting some new information about Bryan Kohberger's arrest. And listen, if this doesn't convince you that Bryan Kohberger is guilty, then I don't know what will, because the circumstances here are so weird. It's so weird, this information that leaked out. Now, as you all know, Bryan Kohberger was under surveillance for a few days as he traveled across the country to his parents' home. Once he got to his parents' home, they were still observing him, watching his movements, watching him go to the grocery store. And they noticed that at night, Bryan Kohberger would go out 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he would take bags of trash from his home and he would put them in his neighbor's trash cans. Well, it just so happens that when they arrested Bryan Kohberger, and I'm not sure how many of you all know this, but when they arrested Bryan Kohberger, they came in full force. They busted through the windows, they propelled from the roof. I mean, they took this situation seriously. Flashbangs, they went crazy. They went ham, if you will. They went ham. That's a word that you may have never heard before, or you probably haven't heard in years. But anyway, they bust into the house, and where do they find Bryan Kohberger? Is he in bed sleeping? Catching up on his beauty rest? No. Bryan Kohberger was in the kitchen with a pair of gloves on, pulling little pieces of trash out of his parents' trash bag and putting them into little plastic baggies. Like, oh, there goes a snot rag. Let me take that and put it in here. Oh yeah, I forgot I ate a candy bar earlier. Let me get that wrapper right here. Oh man, mom's old tampons. Like he's digging through his family's own trash to get whatever pieces of trash may belong to him, and he's putting them in little plastic baggies. Now you tell me, what innocent person on God's green earth does stuff like that? Is this not a sign that this dude is guilty? We've had so many signs, they got plenty of evidence. And for some reason, there are people who are really confident that Bryan's not guilty, that Bryan's going to get off. And people saying, oh, they have nothing, they have nothing. They have a heck of a lot, ladies and gentlemen. They have cell phone records. Now they have knives. Who knows if one of these knives may be the one he used? They got all types of stuff on Bryan Kohberger. And we're still waiting to hear, did these hairs that they found, did they belong to the victims? Did they belong to one of the victims' dogs? There's a lot of stuff there. But at the very least, when they bust into this home to arrest Bryan Kohberger for these murders, they find Bryan Kohberger in a weird, compromising situation, which in my opinion kind of shows that he's guilty. Because an innocent person that has nothing going on typically isn't in a trash bag with tweezers picking out their own trash to collect in their own Ziploc bags. Unless this dude has some type of weird, creepy OCD fascination with trash, then I don't know what to tell you. It looks like this dude is guilty. But I'll take it one step further. I think Bryan knew they were on his tail. And I wonder if Bryan knew that he was under surveillance. We'll talk about that in a future video. But for right now, I want you all to watch this clip real quick, and then I'll be back with more thoughts.
Okay, so Mancuso says what police found Kohberger doing also explains another part of their surveillance in the days before the arrest. Let's go right to Caitlin Becker, senior reporter at dailymail.com, for those details. Caitlin, this is really brand new information. We had the list from the search warrant of what they located on Kohberger and at the house, but now to find out when they went in, he was in the kitchen doing something with the trash and Ziploc baggies. Explain what we know.
Ryan, I don't know how anyone could look at this new information as being anything but suspicious to find the suspect in his parents' kitchen, allegedly wearing latex protective gloves and putting his personal trash in Ziploc baggies in the middle of the night. That raises a lot of eyebrows. I can't help but think that that had to have been a bizarre scene to walk into, even for these officers. And Mancuso went on to explain that he hinted at it a little bit in that soundbite that you played earlier, that what they saw and found explained an earlier part of their investigation. And Bryan, I know you have been covering this wall to wall like we have. When the police did a trash pull, when they pulled the garbage from the Kohberger home and they tested DNA, they got a match for the father of their suspect profile, not their suspect profile. And the father of their suspect profile, to a 99.998 degree accuracy, was Bryan Kohberger's father. But it is strange. It was odd at the time that there was none of Bryan Kohberger's DNA in the trash, considering he was staying in the home, and to walk into the house and see him allegedly stuffing his personal trash in these plastic baggies now answers that question that we've had as to why his DNA was not in the family's trash.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. It's almost like this was just a little bit of information that wasn't supposed to come out. It obviously wasn't in the search warrant, but to think that they found him in the kitchen. Were there any other little new nuggets, Caitlin, that came out of this new interview with the prosecutor there in Pennsylvania?
There were, Bryan, and he raised a couple of things that I'm sure you thought as well as I did when I first saw this list of what was taken. You're looking at it right here, a pair of size 13 Nike sneakers. And we know, of course, that there was a latent shoe print found at the crime scene on King Road in Idaho. It'll be very interesting to see if that latent shoe print is also a size 13. And Mancuso said that could play a very interesting role. We believe the shoe print at the scene were a pair of Vans, so they don't appear to be the same sneaker, but the size is going to be important. They also took a buckle swab or a cheek swab from Kohberger, and that DNA was, of course, what they then used to match to their suspect profile. And that's going to be huge, crucial pieces of evidence.
So in other words, they caught Bryan Kohberger red-handed, or, well, I don't know what color the gloves were. They caught Bryan Kohberger latex-handed in a pair of gloves deep in the trash, digging through it, trying to make sure samples of his DNA aren't in that trash bag. A non-guilty person does not do things like this. This is the actions of not only a guilty person, but a paranoid guilty person. A paranoid guilty person that feels like they are onto him. That's my opinion. That is my opinion. Now, how much of this will play into the trial in court? I don't really know. I'm sure Bryan could find some excuses. Maybe none of this will even be brought up. But at the very least, when you look at this, I don't see how you couldn't look at this and think it's suspicious. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm not so sure how you all feel about it. For me, it's just that extra piece of confirmation. You know, because in my opinion, I think Bryan's guilty. And I'm not just saying that to say that. You know, when you look at the situation, you look at the evidence that they've presented to us so far, it points towards Bryan being guilty. However, he could be innocent. He could be. Anything is possible. But when you start hearing these little details, that's what really hammers it home for you. That's what really, or at least for me, that's what really makes me feel like, okay, this is confirmation that this dude was guilty and he was up to something. Because this is not the actions of a normal person. Being up in the wee hours of the night, digging through garbage, collecting certain pieces to put in your Ziplocs to save for later. You know what I mean? My question would be is, how was he planning on disposing of that stuff? We know that he was seen throwing garbage away in his neighbor's trash cans. Did he think that that was enough? That he was going to collect this garbage and put it in little Ziplocs and go throw it in his neighbor's garbage can? Surely he could think that, hey, maybe they would go through their garbage too. So I'm really interested in figuring out, where was he even going to take this stuff? Like, what were you planning on doing with this? And how did you think this would help you get away with this situation? And why was your trash, if you were so weird about this, why was your trash in the mix of all this other trash to begin with? I'm guessing that he maybe didn't want to throw his parents off. He didn't want them to notice anything weird. And at the very least, I'll say this, because there's been questions on whether Bryan Kohberger's parents knew about the situation or not. And I understand why. I have a lot of questions because this time period is really wonky. It's really weird. Why are you going home? Why did your dad fly across the country to drive home with you only for you to have to drive back by yourself? So there's a lot of little weird details in here that may make you think that his parents may have known something. But when I hear this, that makes me think, oh, they didn't know anything. Because it appears to me like, all right, if Bryan Kohberger was this way about his trash, I would think that he would automatically just throw away his trash in a different trash bag, in a different trash can. You know what I mean? But he's not. It appears to me that he would throw his trash in the garbage so he could pretend like everything is normal. And then when his parents would go to sleep in the middle of the night, Bryan Kohberger would be in that kitchen digging through the trash can, getting those Baby Ruth wrappers out of there and putting them in his own bags to dispose of. So my main takeaways here, and this is just my opinion, my main takeaways here from this piece of information is that yes, this further proves that Bryan's guilty. It further proves that Bryan was doing whatever he could to cover his tracks. But I also think that, hearing that he's digging through the main trash to pull out his trash to separate, that makes me think that his parents are clueless. That his parents have no idea what is going on. Because if they did, then Bryan Kohberger wouldn't have to be here pretending like everything is normal, throwing his garbage in the normal garbage can, only to extract that garbage at 4 o'clock in the morning while his parents were asleep. But let me know your thoughts about this. I'm sure there are other things to take away from this, but those are my two main takeaways as of right now. I'm sure I'll think about it more and we'll have more to talk about as far as this goes in the future. Let me know your thoughts right now, though, down in the comments. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and as always, remember, remain opinionated.